This morning we are taking a trip to Old Britain, and we're making something that I've been asked to do for so long, and that is a proper steak and kidney pudding. Now, last year we did a whole lot of experimentation with meat, and in the end we discovered the best cut for stews is brisket. Now, what the butcher has done for me with this piece of brisket, this is why it looks flat. He flattened it out and removed all the fat, but with some connective tissue in between, which will soften as it is cooking. Now, like with all stews, the meat needs to be cooked for long and slow. Now, the blocks of meat, because we want a fairly substantial eat, we're keeping the blocks fairly big. Now, what we've done with the kidneys, we use 6 kidneys for the recipe, and I've just kept one without cleaning it. Now, around a kidney, there's normally a little membrane. Sometimes the butcher removes it, sometimes you have to do it yourself. Then we've half frozen these kidneys. It's much easier to work with them when they're frozen. And then you cut out this white membrane. And the kidney itself goes into some salt water. Use about 2 cups of water to a tablespoon of salt. And you just leave it to soak in that salt water for roughly half an hour. We're going to add the kidneys to the meat, and then the meat is going to be browned, but it's not necessary to brown all the meat. In order to facilitate the browning, we need some oil. Canola oil is fine. You don't have to use olive oil here. And to give the flavor, we add a little bit of butter to that. Now, as soon as the butter has browned, then we can add the meat. So the meat, only half the meat. We just want to get a bit of flavor going. Now, this meat that we've got left here and the rest of the kidneys, we're going to season that with 1 teaspoon of seasoned salt, and when that one comes out the pan, we'll season that as well. Remember, it's important that the pan is really hot when you add the meat, and that you don't overfill the pan. Otherwise, the meat will immediately start drawing water. Fine, this meat is brown enough now, so we remove it. Then immediately season it, a bit more seasoned salt. And now we've got that lovely browning in the pan, which is perfect for our onions. And you can see we're using a generous amount of onions, because this kind of old-fashioned dish requires a fair amount of onions. Now, Janet is going to keep stirring this for us, and we'll put a lid on it after a little while so that the onions can slowly smear and collapse completely. Honestly, the browning of the onion is one of the secrets of this dish, so don't skimp on that step. Now you can see how beautiful these onions look. The browning from the meat has helped it to give it this gorgeous golden brown color. Now we add to that the mushrooms. The mushrooms are really just to give a bit of additional flavor. Then, in order to thicken the gravy, put a little bit of flour, about 2 tablespoons of flour in there, and we stir this through. Then we add a bit of Worcester sauce, which is the right thing to have with steak and kidney. We add some anchovies, which we've cut up, and that gives a most amazing flavor to any beef dish. You will not taste fish, but it just sparks the flavor of the beef. We add half a cup of red wine. It's an ideal way to use leftover wine. And then we're going to add the stock, beef stock. Bring that up to the boil, and only when it is boiling, then you add the meat, the raw and the browned meat, and we bring that to a boil. Now, it is really, really important, if you're going to use a slow cooker, that you add hot food to the slow cooker. And what I do with my slow cooker, I preheat it for a few minutes. Now, this has come to a nice fast boil, but just before we put it into our slow cooker, use a good quality wine vinegar, I would say about a tablespoonful, and also a bit of garlic pepper, about a teaspoonful. Now, this can go into the slow cooker. When the meat is tender, you simply switch off the slow cooker, leave it to stand in there until the next day. Right, now let's just quickly do the pastry. I have actually already cut most of the butter in, and we've left it in the fridge, but just to show you, if you can get hold of one of these pastry cutters, this is actually the best thing to use for pastry. If you don't have a pastry cutter, then you can use your fingertips to rub the butter in. Now, what I've got here is 3/4 cup of ice cold water. Don't add it all. Let's just see how we go. And I'm using a little knife to mix it with. And as soon as you see that it's all crumbly and beginning to stick together, then you switch from the knife to your hand and just bring it together with your hand. Now, this ball of dough just simply sits in that bowl. You cover the bowl with cling film and you put it in the fridge. Now, here's your pastry. You need to keep aside about 1/4 for the top, perhaps slightly more than 1/4. Now, you need to roll your pastry out until it's going to fit into that bowl. Then what you do is fold the pastry into quarters. Put it down and lift it in the bowl with a point in the middle of the bowl. And then you gently unroll it. The meat we're going to dish into the pastry with a slotted spoon. We must just remember to brush this with a bit of water to glue the 2 lots of pastry together. Put it on there, 1/4 in the middle, and unfold it and push the pastry together. Then take a fork, the prongs of the fork, and just cut so that you remove the excess pastry. I must put a lid onto this pastry to stop the water from condensing on top of it. So we just used some baking paper and we made a box pleat in the baking paper. Just use a piece of elastic. Now we're going to tie this with string, and then I'm going to go under the bowl. Now we've got a big saucepan here with a little stand, and we pour boiling water about 1/4 of the way up. Lower the pie in there, and now we're going to steam it very slowly for about 2 hours. There you are. Wow. Now say your prayers. Let's see. Wow. This looks exactly as it should look. We can dish up a nice fat spoonful. You can see lots of lovely gravy. And you can serve it with some green vegetables and a salad. And there you go.